Well, hey, everybody, the secret to successfully leading in chaotic times, that's what we're going to explore today. In times of extreme uncertainty, which I think most of us have felt, we've all understood it over these past 2 years, both social and economic. Many individuals and companies, they freeze and they fail. So what is the secret to successfully leading in these chaotic times? So we're going to unpack that today with our special guest, with change management and VUCA expert Waltraud Glaeser out of Germany, based out of Germany. So excited to have you. So we're going to dig deep in this. So welcome to It's VUCA, the secret to living in the 21st century. This is the channel where we interview some of America's top futurists, leadership and management gurus, mental health experts.
And global.
Global, absolutely. I said world's top. Chris, who I'll get to in just a moment. Chris just can't be quiet anytime, so you'll understand that, Waltraud. But anyway, I'm your host, Mike Schindler, and with me is our co-host, three-time Emmy Award-winning producer and writer, Chris Nolan. So, yeah. Waltraud, we have a good time on this show. Just be warned.
For sure. And go with the flow, please.
That's right. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. First of all, the excitement is really on my side because I'm really excited to meet you guys and to have the opportunity, to talk to you and exchange on, things like VUCA. And, in the background, by the way, that's German. And it says, luckily, it's only VUCA. This is my attitude. Nice. Yes, luckily, it's only VUCA. And I'm really looking forward to have a great exchange with you. And I'm really open to any question you want to ask me. And whenever I can contribute, I will gladly do. So thanks again, Mike, to you and also to Chris. And maybe Chris, maybe you should take the stage, if you are in the background already.
I have been on the other side of the camera too long.
That's right.
For 25 years and interviewing people, and I'm just coming out of my shell now.
That's right. He's discovering the new him. He is discovering his future self right here. So it's very cool to see VUCA right in front of us. So,
and it's inspiring. It's inspiring. So let's get inspired even more.
Absolutely. Well, so I want to dive into that. So before we reveal kind of this secret to successfully leading in these chaotic times, which I think a lot of people want to know about, share with our audience who you are, a little bit about your background, and how you became one of Germany's really top change management experts and people that are familiar with VUCA.
Well, of course, first of all, I'm not sure if I'm on the top of the list. What I can tell actually is that I'm really found very often due to I'm dealing with VUCA and I'm doing it already for several years already. And the COVID-19 pandemic really was very good news for me because the world is experiencing VUCA and they are looking for solutions and how to navigate these VUCA waves. And then they find a way to me personally as well to what I'm doing actually around. And this, to answer your question, I'm an organizational developer and I'm already 59 years old. So I look back to a lot of life experience. When I have been also a leader, I was a leader of a profit center. So I really had to check and take care for figures and also for the people who were necessarily the ones who really created these figures and these success stories together with me. And already while I was a leader, I had the idea to become a coach because I like this attitude to make other people better and be of help, to explore new ways and maybe to really develop the resources you have inside of yourself. And I have been part of a subsidiary board. And so why I'm telling this? Because I have different perspectives. I have a perspective from the inside of an organization. Even when I was an employee, not just a manager or leader, also an employee. And since the last 12 years, I have now the external perspective while I'm really helping organizations and people within the organizations to deal with change, which for me is really, maybe reconsidering the past, but also much more getting into transformation, which is more backcasting, start with the end in mind, more looking from what do we want to really how do we can succeed, and what do we really want to achieve. And these are the perspectives that I have. And the last sentence to the VUCA world, I'm dealing with this for about, I think it was 2015 that I found this term, and that I had my first lecture about VUCA.
Wow.
Well, I have two questions, okay? The first question will ping off of what you just said, which is that you're also looking at kind of a future back kind of concept as well as where we are right now, which is really important, because what Mike and I did with with It's VUCA, the movie, The Secret to Living in the 21st Century, really what it is there's these external forces of VUCA, right? And then there's internal forces, as you talked about, from the employees. So there's these two worlds of VUCA. There's the V's of VUCA, which are the volatility, uncertainty, complexity and ambiguity. But how does that affect us as people? What does that do to us? And that causes us to change things. So that gets to my first question, which is, how do we bring VUCA down to a personal level? Because you deal with organizations, but that also just gets down to individuals after a while, right? So in other words, one of the things that we did the documentary for was to wake people up. Wake people up to the VUCA world, to the future, and to prepare them for it. Are they ready for it? Which we say no, right? Most people are just saying, I hope they figure this out. But whoever the they is, we don't know, right?
Exactly.
The government, the companies, which is, if in the documentary we call it, everybody has to be a hero. Okay. So I want to have you comment to that idea, the internal stuff, the trauma, the hopelessness, the inability to cope. That you're familiar with Alvin Toffler, of course, the futurist, future shock. That stuff is now on steroids. Okay. So that's one question, the individual. And the next question is, as we talked about before we got on the show, why is VUCA, or why has VUCA, or the concept of VUCA, really taken off in Europe, the Middle East, Asia, and especially India? So two questions.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, first, thinking about the first question, some answers to the first question is, I mean, first of all, I think really every human being should be in contact with him or herself about the needs I have. And then be aware of how are my needs really fulfilled, or what are the effects and affection I really have to deal with if I'm part of an environment. Yeah. So if I'm part of an environment, I, for example, might feel, oh, there is a volatility, there is an uncertainty, there is a complexity, there is ambiguity, and this affects me. And how much am I really open to really first realize there are effects which really, for example, stresses me, and then try to understand what is it about, what stresses me, for example, or what puts me under pressure, or what insecures me. So I think this would be really a first approach to be, I'm often talking about be authentic as much as you can be. And authentic means for me really being in contact with your emotions, with your needs, with your vision, for example, your values, what is really valuable to you, what is important to you, and then check it. Okay, what do I want to have, and where do I have, what is the environment, or what is the context I'm living in, and how much is there maybe a discrepancy? Yeah. And if I really want to name it VUCA, well, that's one decision, but I think VUCA at least is just a term, it's just an acronym. So I'm always talking about the phenomena that show effect on my existence, for example, on, let's say, on my private role, on my family, on my, even if I have a personal role in an organization. Yeah. And then really be aware about, what do I need to feel good, to feel healthy, to be to be responsive, to be able to take influence, to be able to take decisions. So these are the questions I really want to offer to humans. yeah, to really take a time to stand for a moment and really kind of reflect maybe a bit, or even, yeah, just feel, just get awareness of what's going on and how does it really bother me. Because, for example, if it doesn't bother me, why should I care? Yeah, so this is another thing about encouraging people to decide, okay, well, the world is VUCA, and unfortunately, and I'm really, really so sad about the war in Ukraine. Still, there are people that say, okay, actually, it doesn't bother me, and as long as it doesn't bother me, why should I care? And really, I don't want to judge this attitude, but I think it's important to be prepared in case that it will affect me, that it will have some impact on my life, on me personally, to be a bit more prepared and then be courageous enough to take decisions, what to do and what to not to do. So is this maybe an answer to your first question regarding the human being?
Do you think that there's a point that people get to where where they get so overwhelmed, that they actually click off, they ignore it, or they push it aside, which is a real problem in a VUCA environment where you put it on the back burner, and then it gets worse and it gets worse and it worse. Mike and I call them plus ones and minus ones.
Yeah.
Plus ones are where you're going forward, and the minus ones are where you're going back into safety, back into pushing it off and pushing off. But do you think that's happening now in the world? There's so much change so fast, and so much newness and then loss at the same time, that people just go, I'm just going to take care of today, not worry about tomorrow.
Indeed, being in the here and now. I mean, this is also a value, being in the here and now, and just realizing, okay, does it bother me? Do I really have to get involved? Don't blame this decision. And I think that's the tricky thing about it, yeah. Not just to keep still and say, okay, it doesn't bother me, and I don't have really, I have no, it's not my game, it's not my show. I don't want to say this, and I really want to encourage people to find, for example, a role, or to find at least a purpose, why to engage and how to engage. I think there should be maybe different levels, why to engage and how to engage, and to have the right people for situations, within situations, that really can create solutions, or at least a proper attitude how to deal with this, what's happening around me, that it will not bother you at all. I think this is very naive. Yeah, so because the things are not as trivial as they have been maybe years before. So, but I think it's also a question of resilience. How resilient are the people to accept, for example, first of all, okay, that's a VUCA world we are living in. Just like you say, it's VUCA, and I mean, it's not a brand new term. We are talking about VUCA for more than 30 years, way back when. Yeah. So, and if we looked at this, I found that it's coming from some university professors, lecturers who were talking to organizations already in the middle of the 80s. Yeah. So this has been a matter for companies and for people within the companies for decades already. Yeah. So at least they cannot ignore that something's going on. But I think the question is how well we are already experienced with things, to deal with things. What really has to be changed in attitude, behavior, in solutions? I think there is maybe a difference, that standing still, awaiting for solutions to come, maybe not just being in a mode of reacting or not acting. This might not be valid anymore, I think. Yeah, because we're talking about collaboration, co-creation. So it really takes a common effort to move things.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off that, because I think that's really important. You say, and this goes to Chris's second question in some ways, is VUCA, as Chris and I talk about, has been, here from the beginning of time, right? I mean, Earth was formed out of chaos, if you go down that pathway.
Exactly.
So you look at it and we go, we've been living in this VUCA environment. As humans, we've been able to, navigate, because as we say in the movie, 30 steps back in the day was 30 steps. Now 30 steps is like a billion steps, right? Things are moving so quickly, which is that fight, flight, or freeze standpoint. You say we've been talking about it since the 80s, true enough. But I remember when we were interviewing the guys at Future Strategy Group, and they were saying, gosh, it's something that's known to less than 1% of the people in the entire world, right? Top companies, and certainly us in the military who serve in the military, think tanks, all that.
Yeah.
But to Chris's point, when you look at the studies, Europe, India, Australia, you guys seem to have VUCA as part of the vocabulary. And here, in America, people are like, wow, that's such a clever term. That's amazing. Wow, you guys are so genius. And we're like, wow, Chris is genius. I didn't even know about it. And I served in the military. So why do you think it is so prevalent in Europe and India and all these other countries?
That's an interesting point. So I indeed, I haven't been aware that maybe you Americans are even more relaxed about VUCA than we maybe in Europe have been before. Yeah, maybe it's really, thinking about that, there has a big stability in the US. Yeah, and I think this is really maybe one impact what we are facing in European countries. Yeah, so the idea to really improve as one really big union, European Union, as one community of countries who really can enlarge the strength within this getting together and having a common strategy, a common attitude, having common concepts. Yeah, I think maybe this could be one reason why we really deal more with all these items or with all these phenomena like volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Because if you have more than 25, 27 nations, who want to join for one big purpose, this is the ambiguity at itself. It's pure ambiguity. So maybe this could be a reason that we are thinking, or we are a bit more aware of how to deal with it. And talking about like India, of course, we have a lot of emerging countries. This is, of course, maybe another aspect, so that what has been common, even from the culture of a nation, for example, what has been common for Americans, maybe this is different from India, definitely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And getting more opportunities, really being much more informed about what's going on in the world, having the access to internet, for example, having much more possibilities, opportunities to develop yourself, to have more opportunities to choose, to have much more opportunities to select, for example. This might be all effects why it's maybe a bit more obvious or evident that we are talking about VUCA. But that's just a guess.
Do you think do your clients, when you go to your clients, do you have to educate them on VUCA, or are they pretty aware of it?
As well as, and this is typically for VUCA, we say it's not either or, it's really the as well as approach. We have, I have three categories of customers and maybe target groups as well. There is one first group is they never heard of VUCA, of this term. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they really want to understand, okay, what are these four letters and what's behind this? It's coming from the American War College. No, then it does. Maybe this is another aspect, by the way. It's not in my context because that's military. Yeah. Uh-huh. So, but still they are fine because they want to understand, okay, this is a term we hear very often about it, especially since COVID-19. And then the second target group is the one who is really interested to understand, okay, that's VUCA, and to realize the impacts on the organization, on the teams, on the individuals. So, and then there is a third group. They say, I don't know how to name it, but what you describe, what VUCA is, that's our daily business. Right, so they are already in a mode to navigate. They already have maybe found ways to deal with volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, it's when we shot the documentary, the world was upside down, right? I mean, Chris called me. It was August, or I think it was July of 2020, right? We had early stages, had no idea what was going on. Chris calls us, "Hey, we got to do it on this, on VUCA." And I'm like, I don't even know what VUCA is, Chris. And he's like, "You're the military guy. You should know what this is." And then that put us on this pattern of just collecting all these amazing thought leaders like General Casey and Boykin and, futurists and Stephen Kotler and Michael Hyatt, all these amazing people, right? Which we never could have done had the pandemic not happened, right? So that's the key of VUCA is even though VUCA can be chaotic, there's opportunity in that. And so my question goes to this day, according to NCAP, there's many organizations that have failed, right? Across the world, businesses, organizations, companies, major shifts, some that have filed bankruptcy, some that have just flat out disappeared. What do you see, Walter, with your clients that separates those who succeed from those who don't? What is it?
Yeah. It's a very good question. And this is a question I'm very often asked, especially by customers who come to me and say, "Okay, please help us." Because they want to find the secret. Yeah, they want to know the secret. What do other companies better than we do? Because we are ahead of a crisis. Yeah, we are having a lot of problems that other companies maybe don't have. Yeah. So, and I tell them, listen, there is not a best practice. Maybe it's the best thinking. We can think together, and it could be a kind of sparring we can think about. But I think that a main difference is also a bit in relation, and it refers to the differentiation between change management and transformation. I think there are a lot of companies who are really doing change management, really improving the past and trying to stick to one concept, maybe to one strategy, even if it's not done, written for the next 5 years. Maybe they create a strategy for the next 24 months, which is opportune. Still, they are not really putting the business model on its test, on a proof. They just say, okay, it all the time it was valid, it was stable. Okay, we have some ups and downs, but they say, let's move on. And then there are other companies, they anticipate a bit more the future. And they say, okay, for example, if we want to have the vision, what would be missing in the world without us? How can we create maybe things that are really important? And we are looking ahead. For example, we are also looking at some trends. I mean, you're talking about futurists, yeah? So why not having futurists help you at least anticipate what could the world be like? And what do we want to be like, or what should be our purpose? How can we contribute? How can we have a share of this? Yeah. So I think this is a question also of company culture. For example, regarding also in regard to your question, what I notice is that if I'm talking to customers who have a very traditional way of leading management, for example, very hierarchical, top down.
Yeah.
They very often have many more problems than the company who was already maybe set as, okay, let's understand it as a teamwork. Let's really strengthen self-organization. Let's really create a framework in a company where the people are willing to take responsibility, accountability. Yeah, so this is what I'm saying about more collaboration, cross-functional work, getting out of the silos, things like this. So these are at least two main streams that I would say that the first stream is maybe not really prepared well for VUCA or dealing with VUCA, the others even a bit more. And still more and more we find some companies who do you will know the term of ambidextry, ambidextry, doing it with both hands. Yeah. So which is 1A as an answer to the ambiguity. It's not just agility and adaptability. Putting it much more specific, adaptability could mean having both, having the traditional maybe part of a company, of an organization, which is still successful and which still needs those people who like to be led hierarchically, and maybe at the same time having a kind of part of maybe like a lab, being innovative, being quicker, for example, being more responsive to this instability. Yeah. So this is also what we already discover in Germany, that we have more and more companies, especially big companies, who allow themselves and who are able to pay for it. I mean, they really can afford this, yeah, to really serving two streams, because they know they really have to be prepared for the future, but still they have to, deal with the presence.
Well, there's a short-termism in all companies. In my background, of course, I've dealt with, my two biggest clients are Google and Disney. So, you know, and they're both very progressive companies, but still they have a real problem with they're incentivized for the next 6 months or the next 3 months, and they're all thinking about their retirement and their pension plans, and they're going, you know, they're going, VUCA, yeah, sure, right. You know, I'll deal with that after, let them deal with that again. That's one of those days things. Yeah. One of the things that's interesting about companies, I'm just going to ask you this question, is companies, I don't think individuals do know a lot of this stuff, but I think companies really, they do hire futurists and they do hire insight people. You know, we use one of the analogies, since you're from Germany, that for people, but I think it's also for companies, it's like you were driving along on the freeway, right? And it was 60 miles an hour. And then all of a sudden somebody came in and changed the speed to unlimited, right? All of a sudden you're driving on the Autobahn, right? And like companies go, oh, we are? Yeah, the future's moving faster than you think, right? Okay, but that's that short-termism again, right? You can't, you know, one of the things that's cool about VUCA is it adds an urgency to things, right? It says that we're in a VUCA world, things are speeding up, you know, you should get involved. My question is kind of another analogy we use is maybe this could be the 3 mistakes that people make in this area, in companies or people. We call it, I don't know, do you remember the movie Spinal Tap?
No.
Spinal Tap was a documentary, mockumentary about a band, about a heavy metal band. They went in and they talked to the
it's so great. It really was.
Lead guitarists. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
The lead guitarists, and he said, why do all your amps go to 11? Right? The volume only goes to 10. He says, no, these go to 11. Right? In other words, the VUCA world's kind of like that. And it's what we talk about in the documentary. What I'm going to ask you is, do companies understand things like that? What we're dealing with here is kind of a hyper world. It's not resilience, it's anti-fragile resilience. It's not small ideas, it's big, hairy, audacious goals. It's not, well, let's do some innovation. No. It's heightened creativity, it's heightened innovation. So along those lines, that idea of going to 11, what are the 3 biggest mistakes that companies make to not do that?
Well, I think the first point is really no pain, no gain. No pain, no gain. I think this is very, very important. I mean, when do people move? What has to happen, Chris, that you really get into action, that you're really burning for a target?
You're either truly inspired or you're moving out of pain or fear, right? I mean, I think
you hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
It's the rock bottom area. Oh, we've hit rock bottom.
Yeah,
we got to bring in a new CEO, right?
Yeah. And I think you're talking about the 3 mistakes. I mean, first of all, really, the first mistake could be that you are only willing to move, to get into action by pain. Why not doing it by love? Because you love, for example, to be ahead of innovation or really contributing to the world. Let's say in regard to sustainability. Yeah. Why? I mean, this is another thing. I think this is also maybe I'm thinking about the question. I don't have really proper answers and not prepared answers. I'm just reflecting about it. But how do I have a real consciousness about the role I want to play in the world, or I want to play in a context?
Good.
Yeah. So if I'm really the type like me, for example, I just tell a short story. 2 years ago, I'm really happy about COVID-19, the pandemic, because otherwise we wouldn't meet. We're never going to get to know you guys. So it was an American who called me 2 years ago. We had a Zoom exchange, and he said, listen, what is about this VUCA methodology? What I asked, and I said, sorry, there is no VUCA methodology. There are ways how to deal with it. But I thought, okay, that's an interesting idea, having a VUCA methodology. Yeah, let's think about it. So I got creative, and I thought, okay, this would really be a big inspiration for me, because my customers, they all quit because I was not able to go there. I had to do it here digitally. So how could I take my time, use my time, and be creative? So I created this VUCA facilitation course. Yeah, and I have a trademark in Germany for the VUCA Facilitator. And I thought this could be a very good business model for me to earn money, for example. And again, of course, it was a pain point, because if I'm losing my traditional business, I have to take care for my expenses. So where the money comes from, maybe finding a new product and getting it into the world. Yeah, but also people, companies sometimes they are not hungry anymore. They are set, and also they have maybe employees who say, okay, listen, especially in Germany, I have another 5 years till I retire, so let's slow down. And really, I don't blame them, because they have done a hard job most likely for all the years. Yeah, so there's no pain, no gain, is having not a real clear vision maybe about what could be very interesting to go for, to head for. Yeah, and the third thing might be that simply not being aware, being insecure of how to do it. Sometimes really they are looking for solutions, and maybe they are willing. And I'm doing organizational development with companies who are willing to change, to be more adaptive to VUCA phenomena. Still, they are struggling hard to be really adaptive, to be successful with a new concept, because this is really a change of company culture, for example. And company culture is nothing that you really can switch on or off. Yeah, so this is another process, and it takes another attitude. It takes, for example, taking off the incentives for a special group of people in the company, and not giving it, for example, as a team incentive. Yeah, really having new paradigms. Also, I think you really would have to change the paradigms in companies. Yeah. So as I said, when I was in a company, I said, okay, I can only be as successful as my team is. So, and this was quite a different attitude. Yeah. And I did a lot of leadership. Yeah. And I was willing, and I enjoyed it to do leadership. Still, I came to a point where I said, I'm fed off, and I don't want to be a part of this organization anymore. I don't want to be a leader anymore. Yeah, I want to get rid of all this accountability and responsibility. Yeah, so it's also a thing of what you like, and maybe where you really can be shiny, where you really can be successful, and really contribute to change in the world.
I love that.
But that was a great response.
Yeah, thank you.
It was terrific. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. I love.
Let me hear your thoughts about it.
About what people need to change, how they should.
No, what you just liked. What is
what
great?
I liked about. Well, I'll let Mike. Let me just quickly say. I think one of the things that you said was, you keep bringing up this word attitude, right? It's an attitude shift, which is a big part of what we think, and we do have some methodology too. We have a thing. We should talk more about this. We have a thing called the VUCA line. Above below the VUCA line, we have a thing called the VUCA state of mind, which are methodologies. Because you're absolutely right. There is no methodology, and one of the biggest things is attitude. How I think, how I feel, and how I act. You really have to go into that atomic level, and change that shared consciousness. That team stuff that we're talking about, teams of teams, and that we call it shape shifting, or actually Bob Johansson does, where you change it, leadership from behind. Yeah. Right. And when you were talking about all of that, that's what you were alluding to, all of that kind of stuff, teams and attitudes and that kind of shift. And I love that whole idea of a VUCA facilitator. I think that's terrific. I'd love to know more about that. But that's what I got. It kind of went down to more of a micro level, which Mike likes very much.
Right, so go ahead.
Say what you. I know.
Yeah, I do. So it's so interesting because there's a couple pieces that I was taking out. Like I immediately went to shape-shifting organizations, Bob Johansson's term.
Yeah.
For, you got hierarchy and the combination of two, right? Maybe there's a hierarchical platform that people operate under, but there's a shape-shifting part of the team too that allows them to be progressive and innovative and think outside the box. I think that's really important. You also alluded to, people are trying to fix the past to deal with the future, which led me to, wait a second. Yes, we talk about this, which is you can't fix 21st century problems with 20th century thinking, which is what many companies are doing today, and even individuals.
Or feudal thinking.
Feudal thinking, right? Yeah. But the pain, no gain. So in the military, we talked about that often, right? In the military, we always train for the unexpected. And Chris and I talk about this often, is in the military, the culture is about training for things that may or may not happen. Two types of plans that might work and plans that don't work, right? So we're kind of geared for that thinking already. So when we embrace chaos, well, we train for chaos. We might not have trained for that specific chaos, but at least we have a framework for how to deal with it. I think the important part that I love about what you're saying is you have to understand that no pain, no gain is part of life, number one. Okay, that is life, no matter what. Whether it's spiritual, mental, physical, emotional, economical, whatever, there's going to be pain in those areas. But if you're not willing to break through that pain, you're not going to discover your best self. That's what I took from that. And so if individuals and organizations can truly embrace that, like, where are our pain points? Like, why do organizations not just look at their teams and go, yeah, it's good. Okay, yeah, but good is not great, right? So where's our pain points?
Yeah.
This is a painful moment. And that requires true assessment. And I'm with Chris. I love that facilitator model. I love,
thank
we
you.
call them VUCA warriors. That's what we call them. But that's
VUCA warrior way and all that. We have something. The thing that's interesting about VUCA for our methodology and some of this going to 12 stuff or going to 11 stuff is that VUCA is counterintuitive because anti-fragile resilience, we have an anti-fragile tool, which shows you that there's actually a pain gain threshold. The more you're into fragility, the more pain you're going to have. The more you're into anti-fragility, the less pain you're going to have because you're going, that's that hero's journey, that story. You're going through your pains, you're coming out them, you're seeing gains because you're achieving things. And that's what life is about. It is about facing the pain to see the light on the other side, right? And you don't see that. The more you get into anti-fragility, the more you get into going back into the comfort zone, the more pain that you have. Another thing that's along the same line to this counterintuitive is discipline is freedom. Discipline is less pain. The more things you take, the more of the VUCA world that's confusing, the news media, having bad habits, all this micro stuff, the more that you discipline yourself, you actually find more solace and more serenity because you're getting rid of the wrong stuff. Exactly. So that's right. It's understanding pain.
Yeah.
Which I thought was brilliant. Yeah.
Yes, and I have it's an inspiration. First of all, Mike, I'm not thinking out of the box. I'm thinking with no box.
There you go. Yay.
Well, yeah. I think that's brilliant,
yes,
right?
That's
but
really
most
right.
people,
right.
especially men, we want to compartmentalize. Like, give me my box. Let me have it in my box.
There is no more box.
Women, to their credit, are like, and I don't remember who coined this, but like the internet superhighway, your brains work in areas where there's no limitations, right? But guys are like, okay, I'm going to compartmentalize. This equals this. You're right. There is no box. And you speak to that. And I want to leverage off of what Chris said, because you said something so important, which is changing mindset, right? Changing mindset and culture, right? So you deal with this, getting companies to be agile, right? That's one of the things. Listen, You're feeling the pain. You need to do something different. The old ways are not going to work. So you need to be agile. You got to be open. You got to be a growth mindset. So your mindset. So what are the key steps to helping the individuals inside of companies change mindset, which is not easy because we're talking about neuroscience and all that stuff at that point, right? It's one thing to say, Chris, you need to do 100 push-ups. And Chris is like, yeah, I'll do it.
Which would be this discipline thing again, yeah.
Right.
I think what would be great is if you could do it the way you did before, because it really somehow maybe you later. What are like 5 things people can do?
Yeah.
To Mike's question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, you mentioned some keywords that are really part of my facilitation program, like a growth mindset by Carol Dweck. Yeah, and her famous word is not yet. Yeah. Not yet. I mean, this has such a power. I'm really shivering about not yet. This means that the sky is the limit. We people, we are so well equipped. And this, by the way, this is another problem. Why not really being a bit more prepared for VUCA? Because the companies only look at the skills of a person. They don't look at the resources of a person, and they don't look at a person at its in its whole. Because, for example, as very often I meet maybe a manager on a Saturday with his family, and I think, oh, what is this, Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde, or Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? So this is a real different personality, but it's all in one. So many parts of this personality that could be really used, that could be really a prerequisite to deal with change and to really guide transformation. This is not used by companies. And by the way, that's what I really teach to leaders. I say, please look at what's already there and maybe just reuse it, redefine it, and make it senseful for a certain purpose. And then you might be already so well equipped, instead of searching for something, asking and giving a problem to the team, for example, to solve it together. Yeah, because then maybe, and I think this is what you are doing in the army, you are well prepared. And this is the thing, you cannot plan anymore. At least you need to have a plan B. But this being well prepared for it, yeah, if you're asking for 5 things, yeah, being prepared instead of stuck into plans, for example, really thinking with no box, yeah. And so if I'm allowed to be crazy, I'm a creative person, I really don't want to have some limitations. And you said agile. I'm adaptive, I'm agile, because what is agility? And agility, for example, is very often stuck to Scrum framework, Kanban, design thinking. So we are again talking about tools and methods, but we are not talking about an attitude. So being adaptive, what does it need? And this, Chris, is another answer to you. One of the 5 things is really being adaptive, but still not knowing what is right and what is wrong, being really open, being curious, being really courageous to try, to fail, yeah, and to learn, having a learning culture, by the way, yeah. For example, being open, yeah, being the child that you were maybe at the age of 5. So what's crazy about that or bad about that, yeah? And also being, one thing is to unlearn, not only learn new things, but also maybe to unlearn, to get rid of old habits, or at least put them to a proof. Is it still valid? Is it still creating value? Is it still helpful? Yeah. And maybe a 5th thing is having the idea of a butterfly. Do you know the idea? I like very much the idea of a butterfly. To have a butterfly, you need to have a caterpillar. So 2 systems, that's a bit more like the ambidextry, being really open that it takes a caterpillar to really get a wonderful butterfly, means really being open to leave things, to cut things, to really bury things, yeah, really to put them to grave, because a caterpillar will not survive. So not being too much stuck into stuck with the past, and not being open to maybe let go. I mean, it's easy to say, because, for example, I have a lot of clothes and I'm so heavy to let go these clothes. Yeah. And I think, how stupid is this? But it's a burden. I'm really keeping burden. And so being maybe really decided to release yourself and to find a kind of relief, whatever it might be.
Yeah. That is so good. Chris, I'm glad you went to the 5 points, because you said something. And Chris and I have talked about this. So I went through this whole unlearning exercise. Chris had to suffer through this as I went through this, right? It took about 4 months.
And he hasn't learned very much either. So
yeah, and I haven't learned very much. So when you unlearn what you don't know, it's crazy. But it's interesting to me because that term unlearning, because as a culture, and I don't know if this is true in Europe or not, but certainly here in the United States, is we're always talking about, oh, I got to learn more. Oh, what's the next thing? I got to learn more. I got to learn more, right? I got to keep compounding on the information I have. What new course can I take? What more new thing can I learn? It's for those who are growth mindset, right? It's always unlearning. But part of a growth mindset, and I want you to unpack this a little bit on this unlearning, share with us like the major point and importance of unlearning something, because it's very, very powerful, but I want to hear it from your perspective. Why should somebody unlearn something?
I mean, first of all, I mean, you could ask the question the other way around. Why do we have constantly to learn? So I think there is maybe this is like how do you say in English when it's like a substitute, a synonym for developing is learning. Yeah, so maybe this is a synonym. If you really wanna grow, you need to learn. So maybe this is the wrong paradigm, or what is the wrong I'm missing the English word. Excuse me, I'm just scratching for the word.
Chris isn't very good with English either, so don't worry.
Well, paradigm's a great word. Paradigm's a great word. I'll just I don't want to cut off the thought here, but because paradigm is actually part of the unlearning. When you have a paradigm in life, especially your past, that's what you've learned. And sometimes to go forward into the future, right? If you're still on that old paradigm, you need to unlearn that old paradigm. Otherwise, you're always living in the past, or you're living in past habits, or past models. I don't know if that's where you were going with that, but that's a big part of unlearning, especially in psychology. Is unlearning things that are not helping you. You've got a monkey mind, you know?
What's interesting about the unlearning, though, is people think, oh, I'm losing something, but unlearning really is growth.
It's the way to go forward. You cannot go forward unless you unlearn some of those old paradigms, which I think you were right. It is a good word.
Yeah. And still, I mean, for example, the companies, they're having a big, really HR offering, like learning and development department, for example. Yeah. But for example, what they never do is they send their people to courses, to seminars and whatever. They never or rarely, only rarely, really look on a return of development investment, RODI, return on development investment. So they never look. They just, I mean, what was the purpose? What was it good for? What would have missed the company if they didn't send the people to all these courses, to all these learning sessions, and so on? So the purpose behind it. What should be different after you have, for example, attended such a course? That's not really the question. So, and this, for example, is the thing in Germany. In Germany, you may really ask for learning and development courses for a budget, for example, and they give it to you because we have the workers' councils, for example. They really take care that people are well educated, that they really learn and learn and learn to be, because, and I think this is another synonym. Learning is about being prepared.
Yeah.
And I think in the VUCA world, maybe unlearning is the better preparation for really being VUCA fit, for being a bit more, VUCA adaptive, maybe. Yeah. So, and this is one thing about the unlearning, and I think you really have to dare to say, sorry, I'm not willing to learn anymore because I'm well equipped and I just want to change the perspective. And that's, by the way, what we do in the VUCA Facilitator course. We tell the people, listen, you might not really learn one new thing because there are coaches, there are consultants who are attending. And I said, it might happen that you think you will not have learned one new thing, not one new method. But what I can guarantee is that this one method that is already familiar to you, you will definitely reuse it within this VUCA context. So a good news is you are already well equipped. But for example, if you only have a hammer, yeah, then every problem is a nail. This is a quote by Paul
Yeah, I
Watzlawick,
heard that's great.
Austrian one, yeah.
Exactly.
And we will tell them, listen, we look in your toolbox what's already existing. Yeah, and then we find out together, okay, don't look for a new tool, but maybe just reconsider the situation, understand much more the context, and maybe you find out that you're so well equipped, and then you simply do it the other way around, where you haven't thought of, because we say don't do it, it's not the way you have to do it, and be courageous, be decided just to try. And then maybe they find out, yeah, okay, I don't have to learn new things. Maybe I have to learn a better dealing, a better handling of things which are already existing. And this would, of course, also take a bit out of the dynamic, I think, and out of a bit of the complexity. Also, maybe it would really reduce. You cannot reduce complexity, but it would reduce the stress you feel with dealing with complexity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got one question on HR. That's, I think, what we're hitting into that area, which has to do with VUCA. So, so many people now are not going back to the office, right? They are living all over the country. They can live anywhere they want to do. They can, and anywhere they want, they can have a job and work with the main office. Do you think, and this could be positive or negative, I don't know which way it goes, because VUCA is really driven back in obviously the Army War College days. Technology is what drives VUCA, okay? What turned all the wars into wars of people that had, access to cell phones and satellites, and then why big armies had a hard time fighting them, because it kind of leveled the playing field. But in this context, what I'm talking about is we're talking about uncertainty, talking about complexity, and we're talking about ambiguity. People in HR and people in offices deal on a very facial recognition. You're in the room. I don't have to keep staring at you in a screen, which is fatiguing. People now are Zooming somebody across the hall, right? We've got new behaviors. Do you think this adds to the complexity of understanding a team, people, getting to know somebody? Or do you think the technology makes people more connected? There's more interpersonal, there's more interconnectivity. Where do you see it, or where if you've dealt with HR, and I agree with you, you can't just throw development at it and say, well, that's going to solve it. Right? It helps. It helps the great attrition, because people think, well, at least they care. They gave me this course in whatever. So what do you think? Do you think it's helping, making it more severe, or do you think it's improving? Or give me your thoughts.
Yeah, it's definitely helping, but I mean, in Germany we say the dose makes the poison. So it depends, like a knife. I mean, with a knife you can cut flowers, but you also can kill a man. Yeah. So
right, exactly.
this is digitalization or digitization, and all the technologies. For me, they are very helpful. Still, I was one of those. Maybe it's because I'm a baby boomer. I really refrain to. I'm not really keen on latest technological standard. I was using my Nokia mobile phone really till it was not able to work anymore. So then I switched to an Apple iPhone. Yeah. So I'm not an early adopter, because I found no value really in it to be on top of the latest digital means, devices or whatever. So now I'm not really interested in. So this is another point. If I'm interested in technology, I really welcome, I embrace technological means, I think. And but now getting back to the point, I mean, there is a lot of prejudices that, for example, if we are not able to meet in person, we will miss a lot. Yeah. I will not really obey, is it obey the word? I'm not against this saying, yeah. Still, I mean, technology, or having just the opportunities and the possibilities within technology might still not decrease your level of creativity, because maybe exactly because we are not able to meet in person and we are missing things which we could have if met in person. Then let's think about, let's be creative, let's be even cooperative, getting into a kind of competition and finding a good solution for what is valuable for us, what do we want, what do we want to achieve, what are we missing, how can we get it, things like that. So I think for me the interconnectivity, like you just mentioned, it's great, because this is one answer to, for example, the complexity within the VUCA term, getting into interaction, getting maybe into networks. Like if you want to be agile, you really need to keep much more in your mind. Okay, what are the networks I need? Where can I really connect to? So, and this is wonderfully possible by digitization and all these digital means. Still, I know what we are talking about when I said, for example, within the next 2 weeks, I will be in Berlin, our capital city, and will be in a team of facilitators with 170 people, attendance from a big company. And I'm really looking forward to meet my colleagues, because I'm sure that we can have a very good time and other experiences while only doing it by Zoom or by whatever technical means.
Yeah, see, I think it's so good. This has been so informative. So it's so wonderful. I just want to say, Ms. Glaeser, thank you for being on It's VUCA. I know that we have so much more to explore. We've got so much more we'll be in touch for sure. And for those that want to learn more about you, VUCA-world.org is your website. For people to check that out, and certainly for those here in the United States, certainly nationally, internationally as well, it's VUCA.com, where they can see the film, they can see other things right there. I love that. So, Miss Glaeser, thank you, and I know that we'll be in touch soon again.
Thank you very much. It was really a great pleasure for me, and I really enjoyed the time, and I'm wondering 60 minutes already passed. So it was a great time with you. Thank you, guys, and all the best for this very good project. And really, it's VUCA, and let's really navigate the VUCA waves of the 21st century and even the 22nd century as well.
Awesome.
So it will stay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Bye now.
Bye-bye.